Yeah, welcome to Fearless Flight Live. Nothing like dropping in. Hey, but the good news is we are live and we are streaming and we are on YouTube and we are on Facebook and we're on Periscope, I believe. So welcome. Tonight, you caught us in our natural environment, which is mildly chaotic. Not like when we flew airplanes, I must add. We had a lot more going for us than those days there. And this is Fearless Flight Live. I'm Capt Ron. In case you have not watched us before, this was a rude introduction. And this is for anybody who's got a fear of flying or who knows somebody who's got a fear of flying, or if you're just flat interested in airplanes, this is the place to be, because we love talking about airplanes and we love talking about the things that bug you all out there and make it kind of not fun to fly, because we think that everybody should have fun like we do. Right, Eric? You look like you're sitting on you look like you were about 4 years old there. There you go. That's it. Grow up, Eric. I know you've never heard that before. Eric is talking to us from beautiful downtown Kauai.
Kona.
Kona, that's right. Kona.
Kona Village on the Big Island.
Yeah, and do you have a trip coming out of there tomorrow, or
in 2 days? So
2
the
days.
original trip was Deadhead to LA overnight, then Deadhead here, and I thought, why don't I skip that, come straight here, and I can go diving tomorrow.
Oh, cool.
But we don't want to tell my wife that. We want to tell her that we're playing naked sand beach volleyball with the flight attendant. So if she finds out I was diving without her, she'll be really mad.
And she'll never think to watch YouTube, so that's good. We'll keep that a secret. And Dieter's in the background there. Dieter Staudinger, our ace first officer, ace wingman, and chief technical officer after our fiasco a couple weeks ago. And with us tonight, looking over our shoulder, is Agnes Albright. Agnes is a, we can say, formerly fearful flyer, who's now a fearless flyer. And she's come on to talk about her experiences. And we're going to kind of do a deep dive on kind of the coaching process and the class and try to give you a little bit more in-depth background about what it's like for someone to go through this. Because most of all, usually what we see and what you see out there is just kind of like a testimonial. And you know, I'm not big on saying, hey, Captain Ron's the greatest and all that, because I really want your experience. I want you all out there to know what it's like to go through this. Because when you see people, the first inclination is to look at them and to listen to their story and say, oh yeah, they weren't as bad as I was and it was easier for them. And so Agnes has consented to come on and talk about her life, what it was like with being afraid to fly and leading up to that. So anyway, all right. Well, I think I am going to just put that in gallery view there and welcome you, Agnes. Hey, I'm great. And it's fun to see you again after the last time we saw was on March 23rd.
A month ago, yeah. A month ago. Yeah. Wow, yeah.
It is a month ago, yeah, today. And you came to you and I did a couple of coaching calls beforehand, which was very I hate to use the word aggressive, but very proactive on your part. You know, and I remember, let's just talk about what, you know, just kind of leading up to this, the short but quick story is, you know, when did you notice that you were afraid to fly?
I mean, the very, very first time I got on a plane, I think I was coming over to America when my parents immigrated, and I was 9 years old and I was really afraid, but the gentleman next to me said, I fly all the time, it's no big deal. But I remember that moment, I remember being scared. And then I flew all over the world. I went to, you know, back and forth to Europe, to Greece, I mean, to China, to Japan, like all the time. But the last 10 years or so, I would drug myself. I would take a Xanax, but it's not because I was afraid. I was just like, I'd rather just not think about it. I'd rather just zone out. And then I had a thing happen in October of 2017 when I was on a flight home from Texas. And actually, I wasn't really taking like Xanax on the shorter flights because I was like, oh, they're no big deal. And I actually really enjoyed flying, but I smelled smoke on the plane, which for a long time I wouldn't even talk about to people because I didn't want anyone to feel like what I felt like. And it wasn't bad, but I looked over at the girl next to me and I said, you know, do you smell that? And she just went, yes. So we got the flight attendant. She came over and she was like, oh, okay, I'll be right back. She goes away. And during that time,
did her eyes roll like yours just did?
no, she was pretty calm about it. She was just like,
oh, okay.
I'll be right back. And then she left and she got on the mic and she asked if there was any like medical personnel or anything on the flight.
Yeah.
And I like my body just like everything just like left. Like I felt like I was like boom, and I had like an instant panic attack. And she didn't come back. And what the emergency actually was.
Okay. Yeah. So she didn't acknowledge the smoke problem. She was talking about somebody else having a medical problem.
Yes. So a few rows in front of us, there was an older lady flying who needed assistance. I think maybe like something had happened and she needed assistance. But then she ended up coming back like, I don't know, 10 minutes later, which seemed like forever. And she said everything was fine. So it wasn't like, it wasn't even like it was like some, like a rubbery, like, you know, like when a vacuum gets too full and there's like a smell to it. That's what it was, but it passed really fast. So like till this day, I don't really know what it was. And then after that, I was just like pretty afraid to fly, but I was still able to get on one more flight last Easter, or no, was it Easter? Maybe it was last Easter to Utah and back. And I took Xanax, which like I never do on like an hour and a half flight. And then the Southwest thing happened. And that like took me over the edge. Like, I don't know why, like I was like, I can't get on I almost said a bad word. I was like, I can't get on a plane. And then I ended up canceling my honeymoon to Italy because I was like, I can't go. I ended up canceling a big family trip for the 4th of July. It just like, it completely took like the thought of flying was like a 24/7 thing. Like it completely took hostage of my brain. I don't know how else to describe it. I thought about it first thing when I woke up, how terrified I was. I thought about it during the day, like eating lunch. I thought about it going to bed. Like I was just like obsessing over the worst.
And the worst were there, you know, like, did you actually get images of, you know, that kind of flash from the maybe the smoke experience or something like that? Or was it kind of generic, you know, or, you know?
It was, I mean, it was all over the place. Like I would have dreams where like the plane is having a hard time, like getting in the air and, you know, like it never crashed, but it was having like a hard time. And and then, you know what I mean? Anytime I would see something on the news, I would be like, oh yeah, I knew it. You know what I mean? I had a feeling kind of stuff. But I was just terrified. And I literally thought, it felt like, it really, this is hard to describe, but it felt like my life was over. Cause I travel a lot for work and I love traveling. I love seeing new places, having adventures. And I was just like, that suddenly was like taken away from me. Like it was, I don't know how else to describe it. I felt it was awful. It was just like a constant anxiety over this thing that at any moment I would have to get on a plane and I just can't do it.
Ron, can I ask one quick question?
Yeah.
Hey, Agnes, when that day when you smelled the smell and the smoke and the medical emergency, do you remember what it was like outside? Was it humid? Were there thunderstorms? Was there stuff like that going on? Or not even a rough ride? Was it just real humid?
It was really smooth just going from I don't remember what airport it was, but it was over south, like very south of Texas, because I was in Brownsville. And we're coming back to LAX, but it was beautiful outside. It was just no clouds, nothing, warm, maybe humid. I don't know. You're so high.
What I'm getting at is, if it's the south of Texas, it's illegal for the humidity to be under 90%. What time of year was that?
October.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes the air conditioners in the airplane.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
So powerful. They're so powerful, and the condensation and the act of the air conditioners operating in the real humid air can cause that. When you said the vacuum cleaner smell, that kind of keyed me to it, because that's kind of what it smells like when the air conditioners are compressing the air into the cabin and the outside air is very, very humid. That's real typical, and it can get to the point where you can see a small cloud on the ceiling, and it can be water. It can literally be raining or dripping off of that into the cabin for a short period of time if the air is very humid. And when you said the vacuum cleaner thing, that's why I asked you that. That really makes me wonder if that's what it was.
Yeah. Have you ever opened up a musty old chest or something like that?
All the time. Just kidding. No.
Okay.
Just kidding.
And well, you'd probably know that smell too, though. And that's kind of what you're talking about. The other thing that it still has to do with the air conditioner that I think of, and every once in a while you get it, is they'll have a little bit of a leak in one of the seals in the air conditioner, and they'll get oil into it, and it gets hot in the air conditioner. So it's just like cooking. If you ever smelled oil, dripping on a hot surface, it'll kind of cook it, and it's kind of
I mean, I was right above the wing, so I don't know if that also has anything to do with anything.
Yeah, it's probably everywhere in there, in the airplane there.
Yeah.
But it oftentimes, I mean, sometimes they'll actually get it'll get really noxious in there, and they'll actually land the airplane sometimes, and then when they investigate it, it's most often it's a seal in the air conditioner. So whether you would get it briefly and then it would go away, that doesn't seem very likely, but who knows? It's a mechanical piece of equipment, so it could do that. But again, so the point is just kind of recapping, the way our brains work is we make up a story and we reach conclusions, and then we look for supporting data, right? So when you're anxious about flying to start with, even from way back when, even though you've got all those successes in between, and and things where it hadn't bothered you, who knows why it triggers all of a sudden in your life. And just the disappointment, it would aggravate that, not being able to go on your honeymoon, things like that, but when that happens, now your brain is just really creative, and you're a creative person. You make your living being creative. And so that's the same place that fear comes from. Right. And so the stories you use in your everyday life, or might want to use, are the same. That's the same reservoir, the same prop room that your brain has to cook up all kinds of things going on. And sometimes you may literally get stories, well, I wonder if it's this or this, or you may just get strong feelings. And I think the frustrating thing is the intensity of the feelings is such that, the backstory for that is, man, if I'm feeling this badly about, something being wrong or going wrong, certainly there must be jeopardy to support that. Right. Yeah. So, and you can extend that into the rest of our lives, so then you see something in the news like the Southwest crash and all that. And it's just adding on to all the stories that are already cooking in your mind. And the ultimate cure is you gotta kind of identify the triggers, what's the story below that. And then you've got to work on just the emotional part of it. How do I calm myself down when I'm starting to get aggravated, stuff like that? Yeah. So when you and I first talked, I don't remember how you found me, whether it was on the internet or.
It was I mean, I was looking at like everything. I was like, I'm telling you, I became completely obsessed with everything, like just YouTubing, which is the worst thing you can do, because usually when you find
right. Well, that's what we do. It's an obsessive compulsive dis-ease.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't, I mean, now that I say don't do this, people are going to start doing it. But when you Google like how to get over fear of flying, then like all these, like also like the opposite of that comes up, which is like the worst.
They're already doing it, Agnes. We're not teaching anybody anything that they don't already know. So, yeah.
But yeah, I found you online, and I was like, I did the 15-minute thing, and I'm like, this is like almost like too easy. Like, is this guy going to get back to me? And you totally did.
Yeah.
We scheduled a 15-minute session, and I think that was in October of last year, 2018. Yeah. So we did the 15, and then we did a couple coachings after. And I even remember when I signed up for the LA class, that I freaked out because I thought for some reason the 301 was included in it, which means like we're actually going to fly. And this was in January. And do you remember me texting you? And I was like, oh my God, do I have to go on a plane? Because I'm not doing it.
Right.
And you calm me down. You're like, no, that's not part of it. It's, but get the ticket. If you decide you don't want to do it later, like, you can. And I was like, this guy's crazy. Like, I'm literally not getting on a plane. Like, right. I was like, I'm not getting on a plane. Like in my head, I was like, there's like my anxiety, like right away went like, you know what I mean? Like took over. But I calm myself down. And then, I mean, I got on that plane a couple months later, which is, I still don't really understand how, but I did.
And let me just kind of review the 15-minute call. I had somebody just texted me or sent me an email yesterday about their husband, And so I wrote back the same thing. I said, maybe it'd be a good idea for him to just do a 15-minute coaching call to just kind of get an idea. And this was not the Fearful Flyer, but the wife of the Fearful Flyer. And basically she said, well, I suppose that you're just going to try to sell me the DVD. Well, there is no DVD. I'm assuming she was talking about the Fearless Flight kit.
Yeah.
And all that. But was the 15-minute, this is my worst fear, that people would look at me like a used car salesman, because I really do want to just give people, 15 minutes. And usually I go over. I'm not, that's not, I don't have the egg timer running in the background or anything like that. So, just bail me out here. Was the 15-minute call a high pressure, putting you under the gun and say,
not at all. It wasn't anything like that. You kind of went over, I mean, this is so long ago, but you kind of went over like the amygdala and kind of retraining it. And you listened to me and you just said, here's some steps you can take. And then you said, if you ever need anything, feel free to call me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I can't just like call this guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like, for all that, like I'm some, I don't know, crazy.
And I usually scold people.
Like, who knows,
Yeah. Right after I tell people that, I usually just kind of playfully scold them and say, if I ever find out that you wanted to call me and didn't call me because you said, well, he probably didn't really mean that. I said, I'll really get mad at you. Right. Because I really do. I really do. And it's just a way to connect with people. And because who needs the pressure of feeling pressured when you're already feeling mistrust and anxiety, so for anybody out there, I really do right now, when I still have time available, sometime it's getting busier around here, but I really do like talking to people, and a 15-minute coaching call is usually a good way for people, because all the problems with nobody knows what I'm going through, I feel all alone and all that. So we did a couple of coaching calls. Can you what are some of the things that you remember that we talked about on the coaching calls?
A lot of it was well, without going into too much personal detail, a lot of it was things that were like triggers for me and things that I didn't even realize that had happened to me in the past, that when I was in certain situations wouldn't be like a trigger, like feeling trapped somewhere.
Yeah.
Like the day I felt coming back from Texas on that plane, like when I smelled whatever that smell was, like I immediately felt trapped. So it maybe wasn't even so much that situation as my brain not being able to differentiate of like, you're actually not in danger, but you're just experiencing that one moment again when you felt trapped. The big one was just retraining the amygdala and not reinforcing it. Like that's the hardest part. And it's just like, there's no other way except to actually do it. Like this fear with flying, like there is no other way except to actually get on that plane and do it, which is like crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's just hard, but that was the main thing. Like I didn't want to keep reinforcing my fears, because what had actually happened because of the flying thing is other fears started popping up. I suddenly was afraid of like heights and going over bridges, which I never used to do that. And
Sure.
I realized I was like, whoa. And it like every little thing I'm doing is like reinforcing this. So, and it was also taking baby steps. Like you were using examples of, like if you every time if you for 30 days straight went to the airport and you just sat there, do you remember that example? And then you just sit on the plane, wait for the taxi. If you did that, you'd be like, come on, let's go.
Right.
So what I actually did, and I don't know if this is helpful to anybody else, the place where I live, you guys maybe know, Burbank area, that they have this like high-rise Holiday Inn with glass elevators. And those always kind of freak me out. And there's 18 stories in this one. So I went in there one day and I just went up to the 5th floor because that's all I could do. And I was like scared. And then like a month before I flew, I went back and I did the 5th floor and then like the 10th or something. And then I went to the top and I just like, I don't know, I felt so relieved. And I just like, I was telling what I'm feeling scared right now is not what's actually happening. What you're feeling is not what's actually happening. And then I did it 3 more times and I was like, oh, that like wasn't bad. And now I feel like I can do it. There's also a really tall bridge on one of the freeways here in LA that I was like terrified to go over. And then one day I just said, I'm going over it. And my husband was in the car with me and I was like, I'm really scared, but I'm going to drive over this thing. And I drove over it and I just started crying afterwards and laughing. And I was like, that wasn't even bad. Why did I think that was so bad? Like, why was I like putting all this stuff in my head? But that made me realize like the day when I was getting on that plane, which like a year ago, I was like, there's no way I'm ever getting on a plane again. Like I literally thought my life was just, I was gonna just sit in my house all day kind of thing. I was like, I know I can do it because I've done these other situations that have been really terrifying to me, but I was able to do them, you know? So I don't know, like starting small, doing like little things. That's something I got from our call where you were like, just, you know, just like the airplane taxiing. And I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to do like little things that scare me that I can control like here on the ground.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that was helpful.
And that's, you know, that's something that it certainly, you know, when we talk, I try to answer your questions and we try to come up with some creative things to do. But that's a real tribute to you and other people. Michelle, I think you may remember Michelle. She came up from San Diego. I did a elite coaching with Michelle, and one of the things she did, she got on the train down there, and she rode the train, you know, because that was a closed up feeling that she had.
Oh, yeah.
And so people do things like that, so that's very creative. And what you're doing is you're kind of rehearsing, only you're rehearsing differently. Normally when you rehearse, it's the involuntary kind, it's obsessive compulsive. I'm trapped, I can't get out of here. And then you just keep reliving those thoughts, and that's what makes it worse. But when you come up with creative things like, okay, I'm gonna go to that hotel and I'm gonna ride up the elevator to the 5th floor, you know, and you're amping your anxiety up a little bit, but you're getting the confidence that it's going back the other way as well. And so, you know, my compliments to you. Those are baby steps, and it may not be directly related to an airplane, but it's the same feelings in your head, you know, and so
Ron, can I ask Agnes one question?
Yeah.
So
Just
Agnes,
just kidding.
Yeah, that's she really is my student. She got a smart aleck. Yeah.
When we were in Burbank, were you really surprised by the huge number of people that showed up?
Yeah.
So let's talk about Burbank. Go ahead, Eric. Let's talk about Burbank a little bit.
And when Agnes talks about it, she said, well, I felt really weird calling him, and I was going to call this guy out of the blue and tell him these troubles. It's too bizarre. But and almost all the participants think that when they come to a class that there isn't anybody else thinking that stuff but them, and they are utterly shocked when they see a room full of people. That's their first reaction, that there's other people with the same kind of problem, and it's a stunning thing for them.
Yeah, and
so I'm just putting that out, saying that it's not weird to call or do anything else, but that's the helpful thing in the group setting, is right away they feel relief that, oh, Jesus, whole freaking room full of people have the same problem I do.
Yeah. And it was crazy because when we got there, my husband went with me. There was everything from like a little like 8-year-old to people who were maybe like in their 60s to tough dudes that I was like, wow, you know, I'm like, wow, okay. Like this isn't like, it was like everybody that you can think of was there that you would never look at, like sitting next to you in a restaurant, walking down the street, whatever, that they would be afraid to get on a plane.
So when you decided to go to the class, and at first, your first inclination was not to fly with us, right, that day?
When I first booked the class, I was like, no, I didn't think I could do it.
Yeah. And when did that, what caused you to change that? When did you make that decision to go ahead and book the flight?
I'm not sure. I feel like once I booked the ticket, I think I just got so tired of being scared. So tired. And I was like, you know what? I'm so done with this fear. Like I was just so drained by it. Like, I don't know how else to describe it. I was literally just drained. So like the week before, I was pretty busy, so I didn't have too much time to think about it, which is actually weird because I thought I was going to really obsess over it. And then the morning when I woke up to go to the flight, for some reason, I haven't watched Braveheart in a really long time, but for some reason I woke up and I just told myself I was William Wallace. And people literally thought it was crazy, but it really helped me. And I was like, I don't care. Like I literally, my brain thought I was William Morris. Well, okay, like 2 weeks before, actually, I was I like this thing happened to me where I was like, I'm going to war with this thing. And I was like, this, you know, like bad word is not gonna like, no, mother F or whatever.
Yeah.
You know, sorry, I'm cursing a lot of people. I'm really bad at this,
but you're my kind of people. They're just words.
But it helps me, you know what I mean? Like I needed to like put on that like armor. And yeah, I mean, even the day of class, like I think I was like a crazy person going around saying I'm William Wallace, and you know, every man dies, but not every man lives. And I had this like in my head. It was like I put on like a mask, but for some reason it helped.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sure it does.
Helped.
Well, it's the antithesis of being afraid. It's just like, you know, and it's, I think it comes from the same place that fake it till you make it. You know, you do that. So for people out there, because we got the next class we're going to do, like the Burbank class is coming up here in Phoenix here on July 20th. And the hardest thing is to convince people, buy the ticket, because you don't have to fly if you don't want to. You can preserve the credit for a year on Southwest and all that. But if you want to fly, you know, by the time we get to the class and fly that day, the ticket's $500 if they haven't sold the flight out, you know.
Yeah.
And so you really want to have the ticket there. So that's what I kind of want to pass that along to people that might see this.
Especially summer.
Yeah, especially summer, and especially with those other airplanes out of service now, because I traveled to Burbank last week, and you can see it. All the Southwest has more of the Maxes in service, so they've lost more of their lift capability, and you can see it. And I was talking to some of the agents that I know out here in Phoenix really well that help us with the local class here, and they were saying, yeah, they're kind of the first month of it is really the hardest for the airline employees, because every day is like reinventing the wheel, because every day there's an airplane that should have come in from somewhere else and it isn't available. So then they gotta rob Peter to pay Paul, and they ultimately have to cut their fleet. But now they're getting into where the fleet's cut. But it does mean there's more people, and we're getting into the summer travel season, which is the peak for the airlines. So
it's also one of those things that this might sound weird, but having all those people that were afraid to fly, I was like, this is either going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I'm like, this is like a really bad idea, because I'm going to go on this thing with like a lot of people who are also really afraid.
Yeah.
Or it's going to be really great. It ended up being really great.
Yeah. And those are my thoughts too. I'm thinking like, it's going to be really cool, or I'm going to look like a complete idiot. And I'm going to have, you know, 29 people mutinying, you know, on the thing. So when we got done with the class, I mean, like the class, what was the high point, if there was, in the class?
Well, I love being on the actual, What was weird is I was actually more nervous in the morning getting on the mock plane, the set plane, than I was getting on the actual airplane. It really helped being there for a few hours and it moving around a little bit, and just remembering what it felt like to be on a plane, like looking around and, you know, seeing the vents and feeling the chairs and the carpet. Like, I don't know, just helped to just be in there for a few hours.
Yeah.
Also, I don't know, like the thing that really helped me was the straw, which I didn't think it would at all. When you guys handed those out, I was like, oh, cool, I'll keep this in my pocket. And then when we got to the airport, there was a girl, I forget her name, but she was using hers, and I was like, I should try this.
Tell everybody what the straw is all about.
Yeah. Oh, it just controls your breathing. It just calms you down. I mean, I don't know how else to describe it. Like if you're, you know, like you can't, what is it? I mean, you probably say the scientific. People tend to hyperventilate when they're afraid to fly, and it's more unconscious. So without having something to restrict the amount of air going, you can do that pretty fast. And people then, when you do get on the edge of on the verge of hyperventilating, your lips can get tingly, your forehead you can get dizzy, your fingertips can get tingly if you get that far. If you go far enough, you'll pass out, and then your body just re-regulates your breathing, and then you'll return to consciousness there. So by breathing through a straw, it artificially restricts the amount of air that you can inhale and exhale. So it's virtually impossible to hyperventilate. So that's one thing. And then for me, I just find it, the straw is a vivid reminder. What am I doing with, I'm supposed to breathe consciously and mindfully and slow my breathing down. And so they kind of work in conjunction with each other. So that's the whole point of the straw. I just tell people, go through the food court on the way to the gate and
grab a couple straws.
Yeah,
So,
it was really helpful, which I didn't think it was like, I was like, oh, the straw, you know, because I do yoga and stuff. And I'm like, I see how like the breathing, but I'm like, once you're on the plane, like, is breathing really going to be that helpful? It was
yeah.
helpful.
And the key to that too, which you just touched on is I have a lot of people, they know that, but when they get on the airplane, they let their anxiety take over and they don't do those things. That's a mechanical thing that you can do, even though you might still be, you know, freaking out if you're out there in the audience watching tonight. But what you want to do is you want to force yourself to breathe. You want to force yourself to listen to the harmonizer. You want to force yourself to measure your pulse rate, you know, and see and measure your breath and all that. So when we got to the actual flight, what was that like, you know, when it came time to actually go to the airport and get on the airplane?
It was really weird because I was kind of numb. I was like, am I really doing this? Like, I don't feel very afraid, and that's weird. Like, I'm like, why am I not more afraid? It kind of felt like my like head went away from my body.
Uh-huh.
You know, like, I think I was describing to you, like, maybe that's how people feel when they're actually like threatened with, like, when they're going to war or something. I don't know. That's how, maybe it was just really weird. I was just really kind of numb.
Yeah. Well, it can be dissociation when, you know, and that's what we do when we're in extreme stress. People who have been assaulted, you know, and abused and in circumstances like that can dissociate. So you can get so stressed you dissociate. Also, what I find is people after the class and when people I coach and stuff like that, sometimes they'll report, you know, the night before was really, you know, anxious, anxiety provoking and all that. But by the time they get up on the next day or get to the airplane, like in your case, I find actually some of the things you've been doing are starting to work. And, you know, but the one thing that people will do when they feel calmer, then they start to freak because they're like, oh, something's wrong because I shouldn't be this calm. I should be nervous and all that, you know. And I say, no, just accept whatever it is. You know, if you're calm, you're calm. No big deal. Yeah.
I did do that. I did listen to the harmonizer a lot for, I guess, a good, since October. So October, November, like a good 5-6 months.
So when we actually boarded the flight, and were there any you know, moments that, you know, were worse than others, better than others, you know, all the way through getting on and then taking off?
Well, I actually had a little cheat sheet, which I have right here because I'm keeping it for life. Because I didn't want my bad thoughts to take over my good thoughts.
Okay.
So I just kept looking at that, and the first thing on my cheat sheet says, "Call upon your courage." So for all the people who love like spiritual stuff and everything, I like literally just asked for like my guides to just give me all the courage, like every cell in my body, just give me the courage. Just like every cell, like right now, I just like need you. And it worked. I don't know how. I just like it worked. But I don't know if it was, you know, it was the coachings, it was the harmonizer, it was educating myself. It wasn't just like one day I'm like, okay, I'm going to go fly. It took a few months to like, because in January I wasn't even ready. I was like, there's no way.
Right. So right.
There's like all these steps that I think really help it. For me, like it was good to have my cheat sheet, my notes to, you know, just things like this fear will not define me. It's time to take back your life. I know you're scared, but do it anyway. You know, worries like a rocking chair, just all these things, because otherwise my thoughts can go to bad places. So I was like, I'm just going to focus on this. And then I just downloaded, I thought I was going to listen to the harmonizer, but I downloaded a bunch of comedies on my phone. Yeah. And I just watched like really mindless stuff like Will and Grace, Schitt's Creek, just stuff that's really kind of bizarre. So I didn't have to think about what was actually happening. But when I did think about it, I made sure that my amygdala knew that this is okay. Like I would like look around, I'd be like, see, this is cool. Like we're chilling. We're up here. Yeah, we're high, but we're cool. We're chilling. Okay, back to Will and Grace. You know what I mean? It's all about, like you said, like retraining it. And I'm like, I just want to retrain it to not freak out over like nothing's happening. And
to me, that is the essence of mindfulness. And mindfulness to me is not woo-woo. It's not, you know, incense and all that. It's literally thinking on purpose. So whether you do it with a cheat sheet, or whether you do it with a guided visualization, or whether you do it by moving your attention to a mindless rom-com, you know, a comedy or something like that, it's all the same part of the same process. And you know, and you spent some time listening to the harmonizer beforehand. So what you're doing is you're really replacing some of those old things. You know, we say you got to recognize your triggers. You got to learn to re-regulate your emotions, and then you've got to replace what used to cause racing in your mind with something else. And that's, to me, that's all. Mindfulness is the ultimate cure. But if you go to the airport and you don't practice any of that stuff, or you don't have any ideas, and you get in that environment, and I don't know about you, but when my anxiety takes on a life of its own, it's all over, because biologically I can't get back into the swing of things. I can't calm it down. So I think it was cool. So so the flight itself, were there any anxious moments on the flight?
No, which was really weird. And you came by to check on me, and I was like, I'm like totally fine. Should I be freaking out? You know what I mean? But I was totally fine.
Right.
Agnes, what did you do on the second leg, on the leg back from Sacramento to Burbank? What were you doing on that leg?
I finished watching Schitt's Creek.
Okay, well, at least you were up, and you weren't one of the sleepers. I mean, what do we have, about 6 of them? Who had gone from tears and vibration to just out. They'd spent all their energy, and they were just sleeping all the way back down.
Wow.
Yeah.
No.
I won't out her. She was sitting in the last row on the aisle on the left, airplane left, and she was really struggling when we got on the airplane. And by the time we got on the airplane going back, she was sleeping. And I tell people, people find it really difficult to believe that you can go from not wanting to go to the class in the morning to literally sleeping on the way back, on the leg back.
Oh, there are 5 or 6 of them.
Yeah. And usually the legs back. Eric has seen this time and again. Usually on the leg back, even in the boarding area, waiting to get on. If there's any anticipation or anxiety, it's they want to get on and get over with this and go home and celebrate the day. It's not the anxiety that they felt before. So anyway, well, I really appreciate you coming on tonight. It's way
Thank
cool.
you so much.
Yeah. Let me go to Dieter here just for a minute, and we'll see if there are anybody that's generated any questions here that they might be interested in you answering. I don't know if that's true.
There is well, there was one question that we got via email a little earlier in the week, and maybe that would actually be a great question, Agnes, for you to answer. So you've already mentioned that, being with a lot of other people at the Air Hollywood studios was really helpful to kind of realize that you're not alone in this, and other people are challenged by that as well. But what the question was from the person that emailed us was simply, is that class, is it enough? I think what I read when I read the email is, will that be enough for me to make a difference in how I feel about flying right now? And I mean, obviously, but how did you experience actually going through the class? Because we started in the security area, right? That's a big open area. You see the all the things that you see in the TSA security area, and then you go through the jet bridge and you enter the aircraft, and there's sound playing, and then there's movement. So maybe you can just kind of share, what was your experience from the moment you got there to, kind of like throughout the 4.5 hours that you were there?
Yeah, I think everyone's journey with this is so different, and everyone's life experiences and where people's triggers come from and why this thing pops up is so different for everyone. But for me personally, I don't know if I didn't find you guys, I don't know if I would feel the way I do right now, because there was nothing else I found like this. I did actually go to a therapist for the last 6 months, but before I found a really good one, I went to 2 other ones. One just told me that just to take a Xanax and call it a day and not be scared. And you know what I mean? There was nothing like this with actual pilots and people who have so much knowledge of planes. Like therapy's cool, but you want to know from people that are actually up there doing it. Like it makes such a difference. I don't know how else to describe it, but again, everybody's journey is so different. I don't know, like this, to me, this, like, thank you guys, like this, I know people like on your guys' shows and say it's life changing, but it really is, because even the anxiety in my life was coming from like having to possibly fly. It's been gone for like the last 2-3 weeks. I just don't feel like that anymore. And it's kind of rolled over into everything else in my life. Like I'm not afraid. It's really weird. I'm not afraid.
You need a new hobby.
What was that?
A new hobby. All the time she spent on that, now she needs a new hobby. I mean,
well, no, I don't. Like before, like when I was really anxious about all this, I'm like, wow, did I have something else in my life that I was really anxious about before this suddenly like ticked in? And I'm kind of like, part of me is like, okay, what's coming? Like, cause you know what I mean? Like, is something else gonna suddenly pop up? But nope, I'm not gonna let that happen. I'm not going back to that place. Nope.
And I think you guys, you're planning to make that trip to Italy, or aren't you? You're planning to take your honeymoon, or
we haven't yet. There might be. I think we're gonna do smaller ones. So I think for my birthday in September, I'm gonna try to go to Mexico because it's my favorite place. And then there's possibly like a work trip, which is gonna take me cross country. So, but I'm gonna make my husband fly with me.
Cool.
Because I just don't. I'm not sure if I'm ready to do it by myself just yet.
Yeah.
But to answer that person's question, like having you guys taking the steps, like it's not like an overnight thing. Like, okay, I'm just gonna go to class and get better. The harmonizer helped, you know, like and I would usually fall asleep like 15-20 minutes into it, and I would like wake up with like, if it was like on repeat, like at 2 o'clock or something. But having all that, like going into like your subconscious, like really helps, you know. So I think it's all those steps. So then when you get to the class, it all like clicks. You're like, oh, I know that. And it's like reinforced, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's been such a joy meeting you, Agnes. And you know, I joke, the biggest problem with this job is we work ourselves out of a job. So, you know, sorry. That's the way it is, I guess. You know, I just have to grieve all the time because I meet really cool people like you, and it really is. It's what's really makes me want to do this. It's because I remember our first call. I remember, you know, some tears that you were sharing with me, and people don't see that, and you know, and it would be, you know, I'd love to show them what it's really like, but then you get into exploitation of people, and I don't want to do that. That's not good. But it really is, and you know, I mean, when you look back, it's I mean, just what I've seen in you, it's just an incredible transformation in a short period of time.
And it's possible for everyone, because I literally thought I would never get, for a few months in my life, I was like, that's it, I'm never flying again. So I know there's people out there who feel the way I felt at that time, because when I first found you, that's how I felt. But you know, with your guys' steps and everything, like I really think you can do it. Like, you know what I mean? It's possible for everybody. I really do. Like if I know people said that when I watched the show back in the day, and I'm like, well, that person's different. But literally, like if I can do it, and I canceled my honeymoon, which a lot of it was not refundable because we're like, we're going. Yeah. But you know what I mean? You're like, it's our honeymoon, we're going. Family is not like, it is doable. It really is doable.
Yeah. And that's been my experience over the 31 years I've been doing this too. So thanks. And I really enjoyed meeting you. And
thank you. Wait, somebody wants to say hi. He's been sitting here the whole time.
Oh my gosh. Rocco is hiding in the other room. We did introduce him when we first met. So
okay.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And you know, you are invited back to the class anytime. We're going to we'd love to have you come back as a volunteer, share your story and stuff. That
would be awesome. I'd love that.
We'll stay in touch, and you know where I live, so to speak. So.
I'll find you.
Yeah. So anyway, thanks, Agnes.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, we're gonna come back next week. We're gonna have Sosie, whom you met. Sosie and her husband are gonna try to come on next week. And I went out. They did a piece on Fox News out in LA this week, they did a nice job. It was a lot of fun doing that. And they're like you. They're just really great people. And I love meeting Luke. That was really, because his name, I knew more, yours name more than your name. So anyway, but thanks again, Agnes. And Eric, thanks for hanging out there. And I know you got nothing better to do since you're in
Oh,
Kona.
this is more important than any of the better.
I know, like you're in Hawaii right now. You should be like on the beach with like a pina colada or something.
Well, I do have some activities planned, and I did think after seeing your do that I should warn you, when you and your husband fly to Hawaii, you will have really, really big hair.
Oh, I love it. I live for it.
Really big hair. So
I love it.
warning you in advance.
Okay.
And Dieter, any other last minute notes or questions? We do have the next class coming up. Is the 101 class in Phoenix on May 4th. That's a Saturday night from 6 to 9 o'clock, where we get to spend some time in the classroom and then get on a Southwest Static 737. And then on July 20th, we have the equivalent of our Phoenix 201 class. We don't have the luxury of the TSA and the mock-up, but we do some creative things to give you all that realism, and we do take you out to fly again. So those are, you're working on getting that up and posted. I don't know if you have that done.
We'll actually do a special live, show when it's up to kind of show everybody around. So that will be probably by the end of the week or beginning of next week. Okay.
Sounds good. So thanks everybody for showing up, and thanks again, Agnes, for doing that. Say hi to Luke and have a great evening. Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye, guys.
Okay.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Let me turn on.